Later on today. But Pat, let's go back across the street to you for now.
All right, Lester, thank you very much for that. Well, losing a spouse is devastating enough, but weeks or months later, when friends and family move on and are no longer there to keep the living spouse company, moving on with your life can be a challenge. Sheila Weinstein's husband of 50 years passed away after he was diagnosed with dementia. He died when she was in her 60s, and she just had to reinvent herself. And the urging of her son, she wrote a book. It's called Moving to the Center of the Bed. She wrote the book to help herself and others relearn, readjust to living alone. And Sheila joins us here now. I've been reading the book off and on for the last 24 hours or so. I find it both touching and uplifting at the same time. It's heartbreaking, just a heartbreaking story, but one that you felt you needed to share, Sheila.
Yes, actually, it didn't start out as a book. I started out writing it just to keep track of what I was doing, because I was in a terrible state. I was very depressed and anxious and fearful of the future. And so I started writing, because I'm a writer, to keep track of myself and what I was doing and thinking. And then later on, when I saw what I had, I thought it might help someone else.
Well, how do you think it does help, Sheila? You and George were married for 42 years when he was diagnosed with something, a very rare disease. It's called Pick's disease?
Yes, it's very rare. And it was misdiagnosed a couple of times because of that. Even though a lot of doctors didn't know at the time what it was.
And it differs from, it's a form of dementia, but it differs from Alzheimer's.
There are hundreds of kinds of dementia. And yes, it is different. My husband, it affects a different part of the brain originally, the frontal and temporal lobes, which made him unable to speak and lose himself gradually that way.
And so your loss was over a long period of time, over the 8 years that George suffered from this disease before he passed away.
Absolutely was.
And then you found yourself moving on. He did pass away once he went into assisted living. That was really when you found yourself alone for the first time. How did you pick yourself up, Sheila, and move on?
I just have something inside me that makes me want to do it. I had a poem that I really lived by, and may I say it to you?
Oh, please.
You cannot be given a life by someone else. Of all the people you know in your lifetime, you are the only one you will never leave or lose. To the questions of your life, you are the only answer. To the problems of your life, you are the only solution. And I really lived by that. I knew that if anybody was going to do it, it was going to have to be me. So I set out slowly, doing things gradually, having a lot of compassion for myself, which is something I would advise everyone in similar circumstances to do. We're so good at giving care to other people, but so rarely do we give it to ourselves.
And you recognizing and not being in denial about the fact that you need that is so important. And
I had to learn it.
Yeah.
I had to learn that. And also I think you have to just sit still and feel what you're feeling, not to run from the emotions because they catch up with you. Just allow yourself to be where you are. And eventually, as the title of the book, Moving to the Center of the Bed, you will move to the center of your life. That's what the title means. Moving to the center of your own life. To find that part of yourself that's strong and courageous, that knows that it can find another life. My life is very different now, but it's also rich, and it's passionate, and it's filled with things that I love to do.
And you're living it, which just makes, instead of dwelling, and that's so important. And we're so glad that you were able to join us here today. And
thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for sharing. And again, the book is called Moving to the Center of the Bed, The Artful Creation of a Life Alone, and you're living it well. Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you so much for coming in.
I appreciate it.
And we're coming right back with a preview of Meet the Press.